Alright, let's do this. So I beat Cyberpunk a few times to the point that I have an image in my mind of what Panam looks like. I'm not going to explain in what context I meant, and we'll let your imagination run because that seems like the most fun. I actually played the game on stream, and I believe it was when it came out, and I don't remember dealing with a ton of bugs, truthfully. Truthfully, because of Cyberpunk and No Man's Skies failing, because of backers pushing them to release unfinished games, we have gotten a surge of early access games. A lot of people dislike that early access has become more of a thing because they believe it is making game companies lazy. I see early access as a double edged sword. On one side, it is great because we are able to get access to a game quicker and play and help them point out bugs. On the remaining side, we're basically paying to playtest a game for the company. As someone that playtested in college, not getting paid for making a game better is kind of scummy, but truthfully, as long as the game becomes playable, I am happy. Even Baldur's Gate 3 started out in early access. I would say it is a better incentive because people are able to play the game they want to play, and the game devs are able to pull data on any bugs and what players like based on what they play. I would hope that with the data for the early access, the devs are able to tell what players would want when it comes to DLC, but I doubt it would give them that sort of information. I believe that asking the players what they want in polls or reading the Tame subreddit would be the best way to see what gamers want. The current big early access games at this current point is Path of Exile 2, which is fun for me at this point. Compared to the first one, this version is a lot more challenging, so you can actually die and can't really speedrun everything, which is great. I decided to pick the monk class, and weirdly enough, it is getting called the worst class, but it is working great for me. It does feel challenging at times, but I feel like that is based on my RNG being bad and not getting good weapons to drop. Now, if you thought this video would be about early access games, and if they are good, you would be wrong. But think about it now, that actually sounds like a bomb-ass video. I'll probably do that for the next video, so we'll probably make that script after this video. This video has to do with Cyberpunk 2077, but will not do a full video game review. This will be based more on the DLC and how I felt about it overall, but also on different endings. It also means for the first time, I will talk about spoilers and I will make sure that people know when the spoiler talk happens and when it ends. So the main reason I decided to do a video on this is because I just beat the DLC again, and the ending I got was completely different from the other endings I got previously. I say endings very loosely because only two really count as endings to me. So the things the DLC adds to the game, besides more levels and new story, is a new relic stat to level up as you play and discover things in this new section of the world. When it comes to the relic aspect, I don't really think it adds that much. And when I say that, I meant doesn't add much to how I play the game. It can help certain builds, but depending on what kind of character you run, it may not help you much at all. The character I was running in my latest playthrough was a knife thrower. There was nothing that really reinforced my ability to make it stronger. Actually, there's an ability that I won't spoil that can help. Since headshots are the main force of damage, the ability may hurt me more than anything when it comes to stealth. The ability helps more when it comes to boss fights because you aren't really about to one-shot bosses with a headshot. So you have to hit them on specific parts in order to do damage. That in itself should have given you a clue with what ability I'm talking about. Story-wise, the DLC is strong, and it brings so much to the game that a lot of games need to look at Cyberpunk when it comes to DLC. And I think major complaint people had was that there wasn't a romance option in DLC when there were some strong contenders. I say this because the game teases you with certain actions that your allies take, and then nothing happens after. I can only say that it's probably because at the end of the day, you aren't really doing this over a couple of months. But all the DLC can feel like a heist that is planned within weeks. I'm not going to say all of this will feel like a couple weeks because depending on how you went about the game, it can feel like months have passed. I love breaking my theories because you can build as much rapport with these characters because you spend as much time as you want to complete the game. So I feel like it was a lost opportunity to not have romances with these characters because it can cause ethos later down the line. I would be so sad if this new character I started getting to know was suddenly someone I cared about romantically and they just disappeared. It was their choice to not include it, so I'm not going to play the what ifs because I don't believe they would add romances to already complete DLC. It would be more content, but it could change the direction on how everything plays out. I'm getting some Infamous vibes on how the game could go depending on how the ending mission plays out with a romance option. I make myself sad with things that could have happened, but I'll just hope another game gives me that feeling. Okay, unrelated side note. When the hell are we getting an Infamous port to PC? Or a new Infamous-like game from Sucker Punch? Like, I understand you're making games like Ghost of Tsushima, but I need a super-powered game like Infamous in my life again. I'm debating just playing the prototype series again and just uploading to YouTube. Okay, let's go on to the spoiler section of this video because I want to get it done because I don't enjoy talking about spoilers. But to drive my point home about this DLC, spoilers will need to be made. Okay, so there will be a big spoiler sign. Also, mine will be switched to a different position. I'm also debating if I want to turn off captions, but I feel like that will be mean to the people that want to hear the spoiler talk. Okay, so the sign comes on now. So when it comes to one of the no turning back moments, or when I said heist, I kind of meant it in this sort of situation. But you have a big decision which has big consequences. So you're given two choices, which is to either side with Songbird or side with Reed, which truthfully speaking, siding with Reed can give you some massive emotional damage, and siding with Songbird doesn't cause you to lose as much. When I first beat the DLC, I sided with Songbird because I understood what she was going through without spoiling the gameplay. It was an interesting way to go about it. Now, I said there are less losses when it comes to siding with Songbird. That is only true depending on your actions, story progresses. Now, even though you gain some losses along the way with siding with Reed, you can gain so much power. Power once you complete the mission. So we will do a quick recap of the mission. So a small gameplay spoiler. So you have to go out to Songbird, which makes sense because you aren't siding with her. So she isn't going to get captured by the person she trusted the most, but betrayed her trust. Side note, that makes no sense. We just met this bitch. Once you locate where she has gone, you are put in this kind of old school thriller game where you essentially have to do tasks while not getting caught by an enemy, otherwise you can get one shot. It's such one of those weird words where it's like, it doesn't feel right to say task. You just have to say task. I have to do some task. Like, I don't know. I've never say task. Some tasks. I don't. It sounds weird. Like I can't. I'm including this fucking shit. It's task. Task. I don't. It sounds so weird to say. It's actually a lot more fun than the mission you have to undertake if you chose Songbird, which is funny because both are stealth missions, but in different styles. That'll be it with the gameplay spoiler, but still going on with the spoiler talk. Like the other side of the coin, you are given choices later on if you save or be saved, which presents itself in different ways. I have two different saves for both options because I wanted to see what happened if I did the right thing versus the more selfish option, which is saving yourself. Also, when it comes to the power option, you get it regardless with siding with Reed, by the way, so don't worry about picking one of the other options. So let's say you pick the right option. You don't really get an ending because even though you did the right thing, you are still kind of right where you started. Well, you aren't, since you have less time on your ticker compared to when you started the DLC. There is no ending because nothing truly ends. It is just a continuation of the story past a certain point. Again, I can't confirm or deny if that's true or not because I stopped at a certain point of not getting more missions from Reed to start the selfish option. And that'll be it for spoilers. Let's now try to talk about the ending without spoiling everything. Dun dun dun! So you have a bit before you actually get to see your ending for the DLC. Remember that this ending is based on choosing Reed's side for your last mission and also being selfish. The funny thing is that the DLC gives you kind of what you want in a cure, but it doesn't at the same time because you lose too much. The reason I say this option is selfish is because you do something that goes against sound reason just to save your own ass later down the line. You basically become the villain for your own story because you prioritize yourself over anyone else. So without explaining anything, you basically lose everything. When I say you lose everything, I mean that. I guess there are some symbolism in that way, but it makes the ending feel kind of empty because you gain nothing. Also, after the cutscene ends, you are just thrown into the main menu, aren't even given a congrats for being it with this ending. It is like the game is like, well, you did that. Try again at the earliest save, you dirtbag. So after saying all that, how did I feel about the ending? I feel like there was a lot more closure than the other endings, and felt like a new start to a life that we deserve, but also felt that I was stripped bare of anything that made me, well, me. It felt nice to see a human side to V instead of the legend that we became. I felt stripped bare to the point that I was alone, and that was all it would be at the end of the day. Not to say that couldn't change at any given point, but that's how I felt in that moment. I had pros and cons of the ending, but I was happy I was able to view it, but truthfully, I would just go in for the power, but wouldn't finalize anything. The best option to me would be to go the selfless route instead of the selfish route I was talking about. In total, I like the DLC because it added a ton of things that added to the gaming experience as a whole and took inspiration from a lot of mods that people liked. That was a first for me. I never heard of a gaming company shout out modders implementing the mods into the game because people liked them so much. Again, not every mod that was popular was added, but that was a nice addition. The story was great for a DLC, and I expected nothing less from CD Projekt Red, because if you have played the DLC for The Witcher 3, you would have also expected quality. The first thing is I always expect 2 or 3 DLCs from the games, so I feel like we may get another DLC further down the line. That could be wishful thinking on my part, but more romances will always be more fun and wanted from the community. Also, nothing really changes build wise, which is kind of sad to say, but whatever build you have for the base game can still be optimal. Side missions add a lot as well, since you are able to see a friendly face as you delve into this new place called Dogtown. It is a pretty fun DLC. I hope we get more DLCs later in the future. We can also understand if CDPR wants to focus on making a new game instead of making another story expansive DLC. Tell me how I felt about the DLC if you felt the same way. I miss making these videos, funny enough. I had to pull away for work for about a month, so I missed on recording streaming, but we are back. I think I want to add something to this, right? So the thing is, right, I feel like people are already going to say, well, Baldur's Gate 3 added, like, this whole modding tool so people can actually implement mods. Okay, I get that. I'm not talking about adding a modding tool into into the game. I'm talking about actually shouting out modders, being like, hey, that mod is fucking dope. I want to add it to the game. And they add it to the game. They shout out the person. They even shout out, I think they shout out on the patch notes too. And they might have just literally just asked the person if they just put it into the game. And I think they just like fine tuned it so it can work with the system. I think that's literally what happened. If I'm remembering wrong, my bad. But that's how I remember it happening with like it was a mod where the your companions basically call you on an off day and you spend time with them in your apartment. That's the mod I'm talking about. But yeah, like Baldur's Gate 3 didn't do that. They just added a modding tool to the game so people could mod their games. That's really it. That was my tangent that I wanted to kind of fight against people I feel like that would immediately say, well, Baldur's Gate 3 did it. I was like, shut the fuck up, they didn't. Anyway, that has been my time. My name is Only the Incubus, and I hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in the next one. Later days. Love you all. Peace. Mwah. Mwah. Love you all. I gotta eat. Peace.